It's time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions. Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
Who wants to talk sports on a Thursday? We do. From the DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Center studios in San Diego, we welcome you to our Thursday afternoon podcast, Hacksaw's Headlines. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, along with my co-host. It's all his fault this podcast is so good, John Riley. We welcome you as we head towards a great sports weekend. We have a ton of topics on the table. This podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 9 stores in San Diego to serve you. You've got projects, they've got materials. You need ideas, consult with them. Remember the name DIXIELINE Lumber. John Riley, good afternoon. Man, is there so much going on. There's not enough hours in the day, but we're going to try to fill the next hour with a ton of different stories.
I know you were just telling me that people are hound dogging you to do NFL reports and you're going away for the weekend. But, you know, I'm glad you're here. We got a lot to discuss.
Awful lot to discuss. Before we get started, and I thank everybody that joins us on our live stream all the time. I ask people, I use the phrase X marks the spot.
Yes.
I've asked people to join my Twitter all-star team. You're all on social media. Still want that invitation out there. Join me on X so you can follow everything I do. My code name, or what do you call it?
The handle.
My handle, at Hacksaw1090. At Hacksaw1090. When we're done, just go on social media, on X, and follow. Ton of things there. Also, you like sports? I write a ton of it every day. You gotta read my one man's opinion column up there on my website today. It's about the Padres, good, bad, indifferent. Hope you enjoy right now because I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring with Padre baseball. My one man's opinion column. I have opinions on what happened at the baseball trading deadline. Of course, the website is leehacksawhamilton.com. And when you punch up the website, there's a big orange box right there on the front page. Fill out the orange box. Get on our email list because we send out a lot of material. And John wants to tell you about what he's going to do at the end of this podcast because he's the one that's created this thing, and it's his fault. Fans for.
Yeah, it's all my fault. So, yeah, if you want to get on board, you want to talk to Hacksaw, you got a question or a comment, just drop your take in the live chat. Facebook, YouTube, X will get you involved in Fans Forum at the conclusion of Hacksaw's Headlines.
And a reminder, want you to share, tell everybody what we do Monday with the bonus podcast, what we do on Thursdays, and we want you to subscribe because we put a lot of stuff up on our YouTube channel during the course of the week, and there will be notifications immediately when we add something to the podcast and to the YouTube channel. John Riley, we got a lot of baseball to talk about. Favorite time of the year for you? Trading deadline. Unfreaking believable. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Padres and Dodgers last night, what a series. You know, both teams were wheeling and dealing.
All right, let's talk about the topic on the table. We do have a pennant race now. The Padres have gone from 9 games out to 4.5 games out. And the Padres now have 15 consecutive games against the bottom feeders in baseball. The Pirates' good young pitching staff, the Rockies and the Marlins. If they're going to plant their flag in first place, it starts with this series against the Colorado Rockies and proceeds over the next 15. The schedule, it's laid out weirdly. They're going to play a whole bunch of consecutive games, but they're playing the bottom dwellers for the most part of Major League Baseball. Their time has arrived. Unbelievable 2-game series. I mean, the Padres almost drew 100,000 at Petco Park for the back-to-back wins over the Dodgers. The Dodgers are in utter disarray. Padres are playing with great confidence. And then the Padres have now positioned themselves to a superb place as it relates to the pennant race by virtue of what they did at the baseball trading deadline. I think the Padres won the baseball trading deadline. A.J. Preller was bold, as he's always bold. Talking about the names, let's talk about who the Padres have added. Tanner Scott comes to town, left-handed reliever, all-star, Miami, only credible guy on the Miami roster, 1.18 ERA as a closer. Does have a history of being wild. They're getting him for 2 months. They paid a steep price to get him for 2 months. He's already said he's going to baseball free agency, but he's having a career year. He will be a joint closer with Robert Suarez. It'll be interesting to see whether it's matchups or how they use him. Other guy who came from the Marlins in the deal was BRYAN. He's a right-hander, converted starter, could be more of a long reliever, 2.49 ERA pitching for the Marlins. He comes in as an addendum guy in the bullpen. The third guy is the setup guy who came from Tampa Bay, Jason Adam. Flamethrower, wide variety of pitches, remade himself, reinvented himself when he got to Tampa. Dude's been on the DFA list a couple times in his career, so he's really taken a jump forward. I think his ERA was 2.37. So those three are coming to the group that's already there. And John, the group that's already there is really good. That is Suarez. And that are all the setup guys led by Matsui. And then what you've got with Estrada and what he has become and what Morion has become as a setup guy. The Padres right now, to me, are 6 or 7 trustworthy arms in the bullpen. And they need it because they've not been able to keep their starters healthy. They need it because they could not get starting pitching because the price was too high. Now, at the end of the day, A.J. Preller, with the 5 transactions he's made, traded 14 of the top 16 players in the farm system. Farm system is barren. Poor El Paso. I'm not talking about the hot weather. I'm not talking about illegal aliens. I'm talking about El Paso, Chihuahua baseball. Last I ever checked, they're 22 games under 500 because AJ's traded all the prospects away. He's got nothing there. He's got hardly anything at AA. And what they've got is at the Rancho Cucamongas in the Class A's of the world, which is a long ways away from being Major League Baseball. So, John, it was a hell of a 48 hours in these games against the Dodgers. They did shut those bleeping fans up, and you finally heard beat L.A., beat L.A.
For sure.
And that was an electric first night victory and just a whipping in the second night victory over Dodger Blue. So the floor is yours. Talk about what the Padres have become and the 15-game schedule ahead, and then like or dislike price paid compared to what they got, and your thoughts going forward on Friar Baseball.
First of all, the series was great, especially the big comeback win in the first game. That was Tuesday, right?
That was electric.
Yeah, that was unbelievable. And what a great comeback that was. Last night's game, it was the Padres had it in hand all the way, but you're looking at the Dodgers and you're expecting them to be the big, the big gorilla in the middle of the room. And like Clayton Kershaw, you can tell he's at the end of his career. Freddie Freeman's still in the hospital with his family. Mookie's not there. Gavin Lux is making errors all over the place. And I'm thinking, this isn't the Dodger team that I'm always worried about. But, give them another 30 days, and a lot of those guys are going to be back, right?
Well, they hope they're going to be back, but they look dead in the water. They had no leadership. There was no spunk at all. They played really poorly. The pitching got battered. They're a battered, broken down team right now, but that can change. And, of course, they've got right now 8 weeks of baseball left, and it looks like a couple of these guys, a couple of the injured pitchers, and Mookie Betts are just on the brink of coming back. Like or dislike the trade and the price to make those trades?
Well, first of all, love AJ being aggressive, and he always does that. He doesn't, shy away from the deals. Yeah, he did get rid of 14 of the top 16, which is mind-blowing, but they still have Ethan Salas and Leonardo DeVries. No, I'm saying that wrong. It's not Leonardo, it's Leonardo, I think, or I can't say it properly. Excuse me. But at any rate, they still have talent in the minors. Just they have those top 2 guys. Preller in his press conference said, we've got guys that are like another wave of players that are probably at rookie ball and single A that they feel confident about. I don't know. I mean, that might be just PR talk there. But you get Tanner Scott, man, a lefty-righty duo with Suarez. I mean, that's killer in 8th and 9th inning. Hoeing, you're not sure. He seems like a versatile piece. And then, the other guy, Adam, sounds like he's going to be good. We saw him last night. But they still are missing a starter, unless this, Martin Perez guy is the one that's going to fill in.
5.20 ERA.
I know. So that's what I'm worried about.
Wafer thin there, but they're really deep in the pen.
Yeah.
So I like the numbers. I think there's unbelievable strength in numbers. Now, I will say this. You won't accept it. I do understand where you are out in left field. I want you to enjoy this season and next season. If they were ever to be back in the World Series, it will be this year or next year. Mm-hmm. Because after that, there won't be winning baseball here because they will have flushed the farm system bare. They still have all these old contracts, and there won't be any way to be able to get more people on this roster. So enjoy this summer, what's left, and next year, because I think we're going to be looking at substandard baseball for a couple of years after that.
Hacksaw, you're a Debbie Downer, man. You're just so down on this team. No,
you ask a question, you wanted me to do this podcast. I'm giving you the data and the information and my opinion.
Well, the data and the information is they won 9 of their last 11,
That's
and
true.
they're only 4.5 games out of first place, and there's a lot to be optimistic about. Down the road, we'll see how it goes. I mean, I certainly don't want them wheeling out Machado and Bogarts in wheelchairs in the infield. It may come to that, but I don't think it's going to be a while. And plus, AJ's always going to reload. Jackson Merrill, this is a rookie. He's going to be good moving on. I'm okay with that. But right now, I want the Padres to keep the momentum going.
Pennant race, baby. You did hear the words World Series out of my mouth.
Yeah,
print
the tickets. No, but the other thing I wanted to ask you is how in the heck did they set records? Because it used to be that the capacity of Petco was like 43 and change, and now they're getting 47 in there. So
can you say Gallagher Park?
That's got to be what it is, because since they remodeled it, we checked it out earlier this year. It's a lot bigger.
Sure.
So they must be selling a lot more like standing room only seats.
They are. The town response has been phenomenal. Pennant race, baby.
Yeah, right on.
We have a pennant race. We go from that topic to the next topic.
Dodger baseball. They made some deals too.
They really did, but they really had to make deals. I'll give you a stunning statement at the end of my commentary here on the Dodgers. The Dodgers go get frontline pitcher James Flaherty, ex-Cardinal, phenom, arm problems, struggled, went to Baltimore, wasn't healthy, went to Detroit, got healthy and reinvented himself. In modern day baseball, anybody walking around a mound with a 2.59 ERA, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And that is Flaherty, who's got a wide variety of pitches to use. Great acquisition. They got a Swiss Army knife from the Cardinals. He's going to be healthy within a week. Tommy Edman can play second, can play short, can play third, will play all 3 outfield positions. 260 hitter, a little bit of pop, great clubhouse guy. He's local. Michael Kopech, he's reinvented himself, came from the White Sox. He pitched against the Padres. He was clocked in triple digits, struck out the side.
Yeah, he looked good.
This guy was a good starter, converted to a closer because of arm problems, pretty good. Kevin Kiermaier, ex-Tampa Bay, not much of a hitter late in his career, Gold Glove. Go get anything, anywhere, including running over the fence to get it. Pretty good acquisition insurance policy. Ahmed Rosario, shortstop, third baseman, second baseman. A lot of utility ability with him. For an older player, he's hitting 307, which is kind of surprising. And the Dodgers need guys who can play multiple positions. I gave the Padres an A+ for what they did at the deadline, even though they paid a steep price. I give the Dodgers an A. Here's the shocker. The Dodgers did all this, all those established guys and role-playing guys, and the only guy they gave up of note was AAA outfielder Miguel Vargas, who's yet to prove he can hit major league pitching. He's kind of a man without a position. Mm-hmm. Is he a second baseman, a shortstop, outfielder? Bigger question, can he hit? Because he's not hit in 2 cups of coffees over 2 seasons with the Dodgers. The Dodgers did not trade any of their catchers, the top 2 catchers. The Dodgers did not trade any of their 4 top minor league pitchers. Some you've already seen here, others are on their way. The Dodgers did all that, and they only gave up Michel Vargas and his .202 batting average. How bleeping impressive is what Andrew Friedman and Brendan Gomes, the general manager, executed again. On the left hand, we got Preller spending all of his currency again in the farm system. And the Dodgers do all this in first place, waiting for healthy guys to come. And this wave of cavalry shows up, and they gave up Miguel Vargas. That's all they gave up. It's amazing.
Well, the Dodgers are loaded. I mean, they've got so much depth, so many pieces to deal. But the Padres are dealing pieces too. I mean, so I don't know. I mean, yeah, Vargas is like the only legit guy that maybe you saw on the trade wire there. But I mean, they sent away what, like 5-6 guys, right?
Yeah, all of them rookie league, Dominican Republic League, or Class A. That's a long way from anybody's major league ballpark.
Yeah, it is.
So you do agree with me?
Well, I agree with you that
Okay, that's all. I don't want to hear anything else. You just said you agree with me.
All right.
All right, let's go to the third topic on the table, the third team.
Okay, let's talk about the Angels. Who's left to play with Trout?
That's a great question you just put up there. Angels got rid of 2 relief pitchers who were doing well. Carlos Estevez goes to Philadelphia. Luis Garcia at the last moment went to the Boston Red Sox. The Halo stockpiles 6 pretty good minor league players in the swaps of the relief pitchers. At the end of the day, the Angels have virtually nobody left on their roster outside of Trout and outside of Anthony Rendon, who's back on the disabled list again with more back problems. The Angels have a tremendous team coming to Salt Lake City, AAA. I don't know what the hell they're going to put at Angel Stadium. Those poor fans. They tried to shop and move some starting pitching. I was surprised Tyler Anderson was not moved. He only had a year and a half to go on a guaranteed contract. I was surprised they were shopping Reed Detmers, who was the #1 pick a year ago and then has fallen on hard times in AAA. Did not move them. The Angels just, they boggle my mind because all they're doing is shopping at Dollar General when they bring free agents in. And all they're doing is stockpiling lower players. Now, they got 6 really good prospects who've done very well at A and AA. The 2 pitchers they got from the Phillies, many people have the opinion that's can't miss. But that's between now and 2027 till they get here. Who is going to play with Mike Trout going forward the rest of this season and obviously into next year? So huge question marks about who they are, what their philosophy is. Why does Arte Moreno still on the team? The general manager allowed to make all these deals will be the final deals that Perry Minasian makes before he gets fired at the end of the season. Miserable season. Go ahead.
Pick up the phone. Call Brian Downing. Call Don Baylor. We need to get some warm bodies out there. The Angels, you said they got 2 top pitchers from the Phillies. Yes. That was for the Carlos Estevez deal, right? Did you see how Luis Garcia, I think he got dealt, to the Red Sox?
Red Sox, they got 4 minor leaguers for him.
I was thinking that. How they get 4 guys back for Luis Garcia?
Well, Class A. That's long way down the road.
Because we were happy that his contract had expired with the Padres last year and happy to see him go. He must have been performing a lot better.
Yeah, I'd say the middle third of the season, he was dominant. He was kind of like he was when he first got here for a year and a half, and he had some injury problems at the end of last season, but he's a remade guy. I mean, he was a once highly regarded setup guy, maybe the closer of the future of the Cardinals, and he got hurt. And then he had wound up going to Japan, and he reinvented himself as a pitcher, came back here, pitched pretty well for a year and a half with the Friars, and did not do well at the end, and let him go. So he goes to Boston in the middle of the pennant race, and they got lower prospects. Each of the guys, I went back and checked, each of the guys statistically are having some really good seasons, but that's rookie league and that's Class A. You just don't know, how a guy in Worcester, Massachusetts is going to hit in the major leagues. So, but the 2 guys they got from the Phillies were pretty good acquisitions.
Well, it's nice to hear some good news for the Angels, but I'll tell you what, at their trade deadline, it's like some teams like the Dodgers and Padres are playing 3D chess, and the Angels are still playing checkers.
Yeah. What world they're living in is beyond me. Okay, so the fans forum chat box is open. You're a Padre fan. You got an opinion on what they got at the trade deadline or the price they paid, good or bad, jump into the chat box now and join us. You're a Dodger fan. That was a dreadful couple of nights for Dodger baseball, but I think they'll be back, and I think they'll be very different once the injured guys get back healthy. And do you agree with me or you agree with him? Dodgers got all these guys. They got 5 guys, and the only guy they gave up with major league ability is Miguel Vargas hitting 202. And if you're an Angel fan, jump on board. So fans forum chat box is open. John, another baseball topic here you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, we want to talk about the trade deadline and some of the teams here. Who did really well in your opinion?
Well, let's start with the Yankees. They needed pitching. They didn't get pitching. I was a bit surprised. The Yankees held on to virtually all their hot young players, if you will. Led by Jason Dominguez, a young center fielder who I still can't believe is there. But the Yankees got Jazz Chisholm. And if you can handle the personality, because he spikes a little bit, he might wear your ass out in the clubhouse. He's like CNN. It's on all the time.
Yeah.
Talk.
Right.
Anyhow, so he shows up. He hits 2 home runs in both games 1 and games 2 that he played, and then an RBI double in game 3.
Nice.
So you come flying out of the box. and he can play lots of positions. They had problems at second. They had problems at third. They had a hole in center field. Chisholm, who's still got contract time left, he's been embraced at Yankee Stadium.
A hole in center field. They have Trent Grisham.
That's what I said. A hole in center field.
Yeah.
So anyhow, they get him. I think that was a great acquisition.
Yeah.
Philadelphia, this was part surprise to me and then part reality to me. Philadelphia shakes up the bullpen, and they had a lot of live arms there. But the problem was all those live arms were walking batters all the time. Well, they got rid of a couple of them, and they made the trade to get Carlos Estevez. He's a really good guy. I interviewed him once, really nice guy, and a guy is ferociously driven, and he can bring heat. He had 20 saves on a lousy Angel team in 23 appearances. He goes to Philadelphia, and that is going to seal the deal with them, although they're not playing real well right now. They're a little bit banged up in the everyday batting order. I just found out today, Bryce Harper is 1 for 30.
Really?
That's Bryce Harper. But,
wow.
He plays every minute of every inning. He plays hard all the time, so he kind of looks fatigued. But I think Estevez turns out to be a really great acquisition for Philadelphia in that pennant race. Arizona Diamondbacks, they needed relief pitching. They went out and got a couple. They wanted somebody who could pop home runs occasionally to complement the Christian Walkers and the Martes of the world. And they went out and they got Josh Bell. And Josh Bell helps balance their lineup. Left-handed hitter for the most part with power.
Yeah.
I think the Angels had themselves a really good series of deals at the deadline. Cleveland has been in first place, but when the Padres played the Guardians, a.k.a. my Indians, you could tell that Cleveland had holes in their lineup. Well, they solved a little bit of that. They're a little bit devoid of power if Jose Ramirez is not at the plate. And they went out and got Lane Thomas, right-handed power bat, who can hit some, hits for average, and does pop them occasionally. Got him from the Washington Nationals. And they're a little bit thin in the rotation, veteran rotation. They went out and got Alex Cobb, who the Giants gave up on, and he was ready to pitch. He's had a lot of physical problems for a year and a half. He is back. And Giants moved him right at the deadline in kind of a strange deal. So I think Cleveland gets an insurance policy veteran and does get a guy who can pop from the right-hand side. So I think the Guardians, a.k.a. Indians, did really well. We saw Baltimore last week, and they looked like a fatigued team to me. They looked worn out. But Baltimore goes out and they get Zach Eflin, who's going to be a quality mid-rotation, back-of-the-rotation starter. And then they got Trevor Rogers from Miami, who can be their fifth starter. So suddenly now they got veterans to go with a very young pitching staff, and they've had a lot of injuries on that rotation. Suddenly Baltimore looks like they are a complete baseball team right now. And Seattle did what I think they needed to do in terms of chemistry. They got personality, they got leadership, they got a little bit of firebrand in the dugout because they were not hitting well this season. They've had some injuries. The Mariners go out and they get Randy Arozarena, pepper pot outfielder, hit it all over the place from Tampa Bay. And then they rented Justin Turner from Toronto, formerly Boston, longtime Dodger. And he's a leader in the clubhouse, and give him a right-handed bat to go with all the other bats they have. So I think the Mariners really helped themselves a lot. So from Jazz Chisholm all the way down to Justin Turner, John Riley, give me an opinion.
I remember Chaz Chisholm was on the cover of the MLB video game like a couple of years ago with all of his bling. And it was interesting watching the highlights, seeing him at third base in one of those games, because I always think of him as a second baseman center fielder. But, you got to look at every one of those logos, every one of those teams. They're in it, and they're going for it. And you love to see it. Josh Bell was a first-class guy. Man, when he was here in San Diego, he was such a likable dude. It's fun to see the Orioles and the Mariners competitive and going for it this time of the year. I mean, Seattle had a big lead in the in AL West, but it slipped away, right?
Well, Julio Rodriguez has had multiple injuries, and they as a team across the board, they just flat stopped hitting. I mean, they went through a month. I think the team batting average was 219. They got a really good pitching staff. Not a lot of household names, the George Kirby's of the world, but they got really good pitching. But so they had two bats, and they add some veteran leadership. Arozarena is a firecracker, and Turner is he's stoic, and when he talks, everybody shuts up and listens. So I think there's some intangible things that the Mariners added to the equation. So those were the winners at the trade deadline. And because we follow baseball and we talk about everything in baseball, we have to talk about the terrible times and the losers. Let's start with Miami. Let's go to Tampa Bay. I don't understand how you can rationalize being an owner, continuing to trade away, fire sale what veterans you have on your roster. By the way, your ass is in last place the way you've run the franchise. I'm talking about Bruce Sherman, who owns the Miami Marlins. They moved a lot of people out. Now, baseball purists are saying, Lee, they did really well. They got 15 prospects, a whole bunch of them really good prospects. I grant you that. But they're not going to be playing at Marlins Stadium for the next year and a half. They're in the lower minor leagues. So I recognize some of those names. What are you going to put on the field? What are you asking Skip Schumacher to manage? Because he's managing his ass off with no players. Now you took what veterans he had away. Tampa Bay. This, to me, turned my stomach when I found out this story. Tampa, you and I have talked about them negotiating to build a new stadium. The financing has just been put in place to build a new stadium on the other side of the bridge in St. Pete. So for all these years where they've won and nobody's come to the games because of the location of Tropicana Field, that erector set stadium under the bridge, the Tampa side, they're going to get a new stadium. We find out now that Stuart Sternberg was negotiating to sell the team, and the negotiations fell apart. Sternberg promptly told his baseball people, clean house.
Wow.
They got rid of virtually everybody in Tampa, and they had a young team, and they traded a bunch of young players. Now, Tampa has added 16 prospects. But who's going to play in Tampa? And now the owner, after getting this money, he's put money into the new stadium, but getting civic money, cuts the thing to the bone. What a terrible way to do business. Why does baseball allow that to happen? So you got that. Then you got the White Sox situation. What Garrett Crochet, the starting pitcher, did killed his market value. John, he said just days before the trading deadline, if you deal me, and I know you're shopping me, if you deal me, I must have a new contract with a guarantee I'm going to be a starter in postseason. It just flat out killed anybody that was talking to the White Sox about a transaction. Suddenly, they don't want to inherit a problem, and they would have a problem. You got Crochet is still stuck there. Luis Robert, who they tried to trade, asked way too much. He's still there. They gave away Eloy Jimenez, the other young outfielder who's always hurt, gave up on him, sent him to Baltimore. The White Sox right now, I'm trying to remember what their record is. It's like 27 and 73 right now. They are on track to bust the New York Mets all-time worst record of 40 and 120.
Really?
And they got no players now. I mean, they got Miguel Vargas and they got some lower prospects. They have no major league talent. The number of empty seats at Comiskey Park this year and what they're going to be there next year, just disgraceful.
Wow.
So that's the White Sox. Your Giants.
Yeah.
Would you please have their general manager call me and explain to me personally what their game plan is?
Yeah, I don't understand it.
Why would you keep Blake Snell when you had an offer from the Yankees, and he's probably going to exit at the end of the season? Why would you keep Blake Snell, but then turn around and trade the big money power hitting outfielder Jorge Soler?
Yeah.
Why would you act that way? Are you in it to win and be a wild card team, or are you going to conduct a total rebuild? You let one guy go. Why didn't you get rid of the other guy and stockpile more stuff from the New York? I do not understand what San Francisco is doing. Colorado, nice ownership there. When does Denver Bronco football start? When do the Denver Nuggets open the championship season? Colorado needed pitching. Colorado got no pitching. I just don't understand Peter Schmidt, the general manager, working with Bud Black. They've got a bunch of pretty good young everyday players that have learned to play at this level who can hurt you and maybe beat you. They don't have enough arms, and they didn't do anything to try to go get arms. And in Houston, which has been destroyed by injuries and yet has climbed out of the gutter and has pushed themselves into the playoff chase despite they had 6 of their 7 starting pitchers were on the deal with surgeries. Houston needed arms, and all they got was Yusei Kikuchi, left-handed Toronto. Really? ERA 4.92. I don't understand the Astros and their methodology when they desperately needed pitching. They didn't really do anything. And all those guys that are hurt, they're not coming back this season. If they come back, who knows what they're going to be if they ever do get back. And Justin Verlander's got more neck problems. So those are the ones that I thought wound up becoming big losers for lots of different reasons. And John Riley says,
It's got to be tough to be a baseball fan in Florida right now.
Oh.
You know, you figure the people in Miami were given a sales tax increase to help fund a stadium, and then they jettison all the players, you know, and then that story about the Rays owner, you know, trying to sell it. So he's got cash flow issues all over the place. And you see these teams, and you're like, these are the teams that should be doing a lot, you know, to try to improve, but it just seems like they're not getting the full value that they can get out of them. Now, I will say this, the Padres, when they had Jason Adam, he was there and he was in the dugout looking up at the stadium, 47,000 people filling Petco with eyes of wonder on his face because he knows he's never seen that in Tampa.
Yeah, and he never saw blue sky because all he saw was the erector set and the artificial roof above Tropicana Field, the Sundo.
Exactly. So these teams in Florida are just mind-boggling. The White Sox, I just always remember that when A.J. Preller got to San Diego, building up the Padres farm system, and they were the #1 farm system, the White Sox were too. And I always thought the Padres and White Sox would be rivals maybe in the future, and the Chicago has just gone into the tank. I mean, so that's a disgrace. The Giants I cannot figure out. And the Rockies, as long as that Montfort guy is the owner, they're going to be screwed.
Unbelievable. So those are the winners. Those are the losers in baseball. If you're a baseball fan, we talk about the teams here. We talk about the teams out there. You're going to talk to us, are you not? As talk show radio host used to say, get off your ass and get on the line. We want you to join us in Fans Forum, talk Major League Baseball. Hey, we get to halftime, our Thursday podcast, kicking off the great sports weekend. Next, news and notes around the NFL. Next, we got hot headlines. Next, we're going to talk about the Olympics. This podcast is brought to you by those guys, DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 9 stores to serve you in San Diego. I've talked too much already the first half. I'm going to let him talk about why DIXIELINE's so great.
Yeah, DIXIELINE, you know what they're doing right now is they're opening up a new location in Orange County. You know, they've been in San Diego for over 100 years and now expanding into the OC. It's pretty exciting. So if contractors and builders love DIXIELINE, but so do homeowners, you can get almost everything you need.
These are the people. You got projects, they got materials. You want ideas? Do what we did. We went to DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. Second half, everybody is on social media. I know you are. I want you to be part of my Twitter all-star team. X marks the spot. I want you to join me, become a follower. My handle, my nickname, at Hacksaw1090, at Hacksaw1090. When we're done with this podcast, just go to your Twitter account, your X account, hit my code, and just follow. I want you to do that. You like sports? You got to read my one man's opinion column today. I probably won't get any Christmas cards from anybody at Petco Park. What I wrote about the Padres and all their trades, my one man's opinion column, it's on my website, LeeHacksawHamilton.com. And if you check my website every morning, you'll know every story there is in the world of sports. Add to that, join Hacksaw's Insiders Group right on the homepage, the front page of my website. There's a big orange box. Fill it out. Join it. You'll get emails of all the special things we're doing. And we want you to share. We want you to subscribe. That way you can tell all your friends what we're doing. And when you subscribe to our podcast on our YouTube channel, you'll get all the alerts that we send out because we do put a lot of different stuff up there on a day in, day out basis. All that. Give us a thumbs up because we need all the help we can get. And as John would say, if you give us a 5-star, that helps us a great deal in algorithms. And when we're done, you're going to take over this podcast. I don't know anybody else is doing what we're doing in terms of style and then viewer-listener interaction. John, explain where you came up with this screwball idea we call Fans Forum.
Well, I came up with the idea because we loved listening to you on the radio on 690 back in the day. So, yeah, if you've got a question or comment for Lee, just drop your take into the live chat on Facebook X or on YouTube, and we'll get you involved in Fans Forum. And we got a ton of people already in line.
Okay, let's go to the second half. We got news and notes around the National Football League, awful lot of stuff. Let's get started with this New England situation. They have a new coach. They have a new general manager, and the relationships with players not going very well. We're talking about this whole Matt Judon situation, their Pro Bowl linebacker, final year of his contract. He got into a fierce argument on the sidelines at practice because, quote, he was holding in. He was in meetings, but he was not practicing.
Holding it.
And he has told them, I have to have my contract extended. I'm grossly paid below what other Pro Bowlers are getting. You need to take care of me. They said no. He had a fierce argument 2 days ago. They met yesterday to try to solve it. Matthew Judon practiced today in Foxborough. Evidently, they transferred some potential money next year into money this year. So he's making more than $6.5 million, and he was one of the lowest paid Pro Bowl linebackers in the league. So they got him signed. This is a terrible story. It's kind of a sad story. We're talking about Seahawk football. Rashad Penny's walked away from the game. Legendary Aztec running back. Just a black cloud of injury that would not leave him. He was in Seattle. He averaged 5.6 yards per carry every time he touched the ball.
Wow.
And he couldn't stay on the field. He had 5 major injuries in 4 years in the NFL. I'm talking Achilles. I'm talking hip. I'm talking calf. I'm talking fractured hand. He went to Philadelphia last year, performed well in preseason, got hurt. They did not re-sign him, went to Carolina. He got hurt again. He's just announced his retirement. Guy made a ton of money, ton of potential. He just could not stay on the field. So that's really sad because he was a dedicated, explosive football player. Chargers, this ought to scare you. They've lost quarterback Justin Herbert today. Justin Herbert has gone down with an arch injury. I think it's somewhat akin to plantar fasciitis. Mm-hmm. It's an arch injury. Those things don't heal in 15 minutes. They say he'll be out in a boot at least 2 to 3 weeks. That means to me he might not be practicing till maybe the final week or so of preseason camp. That's a setback for the Bolts. They've had a fairly healthy preseason. They had one guy who got hurt, Rashawn Slater. It turned out to be a minor calf injury. He's back practicing. They lost James Salyer, who was a starting tackle guard last year, who's going to be the rotation guy. He's out right now. But now you lose your quarterback, and that was the heart and soul. And an arch injury, John, is kind of scary. Sunday ticket. This is kind of different. The NFL yesterday, 3-hour hearing, appealed the $4.7 billion damage judgment against the NFL for the development of Sunday ticket, an antitrust violation, the way they came up with the pricing, what they did with the network partners. NFL yesterday, 3-hour hearing, appealed it. The judge has taken all the data the NFL presented and taken under advisement. The judge, however, told both sets of lawyers in the appeal hearing yesterday, it is of grave concern to him that the jury that he gave instructions to as to how to configure the damages, the jury did not pay attention to what he recommended in terms of the formula to determine what the financial damages were. Financial damages were $4.7 billion. Antitrust, it's $14.4 billion is the total fee. I got a sense the judgment is going to be thrown out of court, and either the mistrial declared or possibly he orders a second trial with the parameters. These are the only metrics you can use to determine what the actual financial damages are. We've not heard the end of the story. He's going to make a ruling sometime in late August. Fascinating story there. Last football story. This involves the Atlanta Hawks. I should say the Atlanta Falcons. We were all stunned when they spent the 8th pick to take Michael Penix, the Washington Huskies quarterback. We were stunned because they paid such a volume of money to get Kirk Cousins, and they had other needs defensively. Arthur Blank yesterday said in the Falcons camp, I was surprised too. Said, I was led to believe they were taking somebody else at number 8, a star defensive player. He said, I was surprised when they called me right before the pick, they'd be in the general manager and the coach. Kirk Cousins, who we had signed, he got the same phone call. He was shocked. He said, but I'm letting my football people do my business. They see what they see in Michael Penix, but I was surprised. So, John, you got a lot of topics on the table. You want to talk about arch injuries? You want to talk about finances? The terrible story with Rashad Penny. Go ahead.
There's a lot there. Rashad Penny is just a sad deal. I was so happy. He was a first-round pick in Seattle, and he was so magical for those 3 years or so with the Aztecs. So he's retiring. We were robbed of watching his talent. The Justin Herbert thing, I think we need to learn a lot more, because this is like right off the sports wire. So how do you injure an arch? Like, I understand maybe if you get tackled or sacked or something, but if he's just going through routine drills,
he's wearing a yellow jersey, you don't touch him.
Exactly. So how did he injure his arch?
Well, when you're running shotgun stuff or you're running stuff under center, you're practicing at game speed.
Okay.
And if you plant to throw, you could pop something in the foot. If you're rolling out, play action, and you roll and you scamper, you could plant and something could happen. I don't think he got hit, because you're not allowed to roll up on the quarterback.
Yeah.
But he could have been injured going through the rigors of making throws, deep drops, plant, roll, throw. That's probably how I got dinged. But arch injuries don't heal by breakfast.
No. I mean, those things linger. I mean, who knows? He may not be ready to start the season.
It's a big storyline that just broke out of the Charger camp. Sunday ticket. What do you think about what the judge just said? Holy, I mean, I know you didn't cut law class every day, but just give me an opinion, because you're at UCSD, and you and I were shocked at the verdict because it was such a complex case, and I was devastated. You think the Charger Rams owners were devastated? Do you know what each team is on the hook for? $449 million of revenue sharing has to go pay their share. $449
per team.
Per team.
See, this is BS, the whole thing, because antitrust is a thing that is always threatened against the biggest companies, but you can never really define what creates a monopoly or price fixing or whatever it is. In this case, they made some games that are available for a premium price. I don't have a problem with that. I mean, that's all businesses do that. They'll take certain elements of their products and services and provide them for an escalated price, just to create tiers and marketing messages around that. So I'm happy this thing got thrown out. And I hope, when they have a second trial, that the NFL gets off on this, because this is a bunch of BS.
So you don't have any problem with the price at the pump for Union or Sunoco or any of the gas companies either?
I drive an electric car, Lee.
Oh.
but
you are permanently pissed at SDG&E.
Oh, well, yeah, but then we have solar, so we were able to avoid a lot of that. I have to kind of play the game. But yeah, I understand certain companies have dominance in certain markets.
So does the NFL.
Well, the NFL does, yeah. But I think in this case, it's almost like politicians find ways, or government officials find ways to always go after the big guy and tear him down. But again, it's not by any sort of objective measurement. It's not like, a car goes 56 miles an hour and it goes over the speed limit. This is a subjective, sort of almost a political money grab.
NFL is involved with money grabs. And by the way, the NFL is big business, so they went after the big time too. We'll see where that story goes. So you're an NFL fan. How alarmed are you all of a sudden about the story that broke as we were coming on? Justin Herbert has an arch injury. That is not good. So we go from that. Fans forum window is open if you want to jump in to talk NFL football. Next topic. This is cool. We're going to talk about this whole set of storylines over there in Paris.
Yeah, the United States having a nice run, especially in gymnastics.
Yeah, gymnastics, women's gymnastics, winning the gold. Men's gymnastics got a bronze. First men's gymnastic victory for the men since 2008 to get a medal. Think about that. I want to talk about Simone Biles, the greatness of the athlete that she is. She got another gold today. She now has 6 golds to go with 9 medals overall. She's still got 3 more events. But I want to talk about Simone Biles and what she represents. We saw the Olympics in Tokyo where she fell apart. She removed herself. She was having confidence problems. She was having mental health problems. And she went into seclusion and took herself off the professional tour and then came back. And she's come back with stars in her eyes, and she's come back vibrant and dynamic. She's come back and gotten more gold medals. I watched her on the balance beam. I said, how is she doing that? And then obviously you see the full floor mechanics of what she's doing with her jumps and all that. Just amazing. But I want to talk about her, the person, and what she represents. We're going to give out gold medals. I want to give Simone Biles a gold medal for becoming the advocate, the voice, the face, and the personality of getting help with mental health.
Yeah.
What she has done nationally on behalf of mental health. She made it, she was one of the first that I've ever recognized, made it okay to talk about how I feel.
Right.
Good times, bad times. What she has done to become the flag carrier for mental health, whether it's husbands, wives, grandparents, kids in high school, is absolutely phenomenal. So I have such great respect for her as a person because she spoke up about what she was experiencing, asked for help, and got the help. She deserves a, quote, real gold medal for mental health. Katie Ledecky, unbelievable in the pool. She won the 1,500 meter event last night. Another gold for her. I think she's got a total of 12 medals so far. 1,500 is an unbelievably long distance to swim.
Yeah.
Just a really hard event, and she won it by more than 10 seconds. Just absolutely amazing. And of course, we talked about Team USA gymnastics, what the men just did, first time since 2008. I didn't realize this till I had investigated. College athletics, all these different programs, you know, universities have 18 to 24 programs, have to be funded because of Title IX. You've got to have equal funding of scholarships and opportunities for men and women. In the U.S., in Division I, there are only 12 universities that now have gymnastics program in our country. 12.
12.
Out of 239 that are playing football. There's only 12 that have gymnastics because everybody's had to balance the scholarship allotment. And what do they cut? They cut the other things. They cut gymnastics. They cut wrestling. They cut track and field and cross country. So for the U.S. to be able to have as many great gymnasts, that's a phenomenal accomplishment just because of what's happened in collegiate athletics, which should be the breeding ground of greatness for the athletes. So thumbs up to the Americans for staying the course and developing greatness, but there's not a lot of opportunity. It's a huge, huge issue.
You know, it's interesting how in youth sports and how they're structured. A good friend of mine, his daughter was a gymnast and was doing the equivalent of travel ball in gymnastics while she was a junior high school and in high school. And it's fiercely competitive. And there are always, you know, a lot of talent that is rising up. I mean, I even saw that they were showing a gymnastics group in Huntington Beach, all these young kids at a camp watching Simone Biles and the women's team dominate. So there's obviously a pipeline, but it is weird. Only 12 universities with programs. I'm shocked by that.
It's all a byproduct, and I'm not condemning Title IX because Title IX is all about opportunities and equal funding and all that, but everybody cuts from the bottom. And a lot of schools that had gymnastics programs can't afford it because they can't balance the scholarships. And it takes a lot of different athletes for all the different events. Pommel horse, floor exercising, rings. I mean, the bars, it's a tremendously tough sport.
And it's not a revenue generator.
Not at all.
Yeah.
So that's the latest there. So we go from the Olympics and we got another week, and just ahead, just around the corner, we're going to track and field, which is going to be fun. Then we're going to marathon running. And it's you know, this is the next stage of the Olympics, which is really cool.
Well, on the Olympics, the men's team, what did you think about that kid that was the pommel horse specialist?
The Clark Kent specialist.
Yeah.
A unique kid.
Yeah, he came out and he did really well.
And that was his only event.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're getting almost a 15 perfect score, that's pretty good. And, you know, Japan and China have become the go-to global powers in gymnastics. And yet our people have held their own. It's really, really impressive.
Nice.
On we go. Hot headlines. A couple of other late-breaking stories off the Sports Wire. His name is Jurgen Klopp, legendary soccer coach, Liverpool, English Premier League, prior to that, Dortmund. Walked away from Liverpool at the end of the EPL season. Coaching changes in the U.S. and in England. He's been approached by both. He's indicated, I'm taking a 12-month sabbatical and I'm going to tour the globe. I will not be a candidate for Team USA, nor will I be a candidate to coach Team England in the World Cup program. That's a bit of a setback. Manchester City, legendary team, has won, 4 EPL titles in a row. They just got hit with a fine, $2.6 million. FIFA has hit them with a fine. The Premier League is the one that hit them with a fine for violation of rules, not money rules, not salary cap violations, but on the field rules. I didn't realize this. You know, we have the running clock, 90-minute clock in soccer, 45 minutes each half, and then they add injury time. They got 22 violations this past year at Manchester City. Violations of clock rules when you're supposed to put the ball in play and then not putting the ball in play. And them delaying the ball in play. And them giving their players extra time to rest on the field because they're not putting the ball in play. 22 different games this year in the EPL. Manchester City got caught. $2.6 million fine yesterday to Manchester City in the English Premier League. Just amazing story.
Go ahead. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. You know, firstly, Jurgen Klopp, I mean, that dude has got a set of chompers on him. Have you seen his teeth? He must have had dental work done. His smile is as big as the Grand Canyon. His
personality is as big as the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, he's something. He's a special guy.
That's too bad he does not want to coach. But the pressure got to him. He said it just was no longer fun at Liverpool because it was, did you win on Sunday? Why did you not win on Thursday? And what are you going to do in the playoffs? Because we need to go get more trophies. He said pressure just emotionally drained him and wore him out.
Well, good for him to say, I'm going to take some time off. I'm going to tour the world. I mean, what a great life to live, especially with all the previous success he had. And when he gets back, someone's going to have a job for him. So he'll be fine. You know, the Manchester City piece, I'm curious. This is a question I wanted to ask you before, because when a ball in soccer goes out of bounds, you know, they got to throw it in. But it seems like it's pretty loose, like how long of a delay until they throw it in, and also exactly the position in the out of bounds area where the thrower throws it in. Because if a ball goes out in basketball, it's very specific on that particular place, but soccer is just sort of loose on that.
Well, I think there's some room to move, but the bigger issue was you can't, when the ball's going out of bounds, you can't just actually touch it and kick it down the side.
Yeah,
and run more time off the clock. And they got Manchester City on 22 violations over 22 games.
Well, their coaches are telling them to do that.
Yeah, exactly. So interesting. I've heard a lot of discipline for different teams for doing different things. Most of it's contract related or salary cap related. Never heard about this one, but evidently there's rules for that. Hey, this podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. You got projects, they've got materials, you need ideas, go to DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations in San Diego and the new one coming to Orange County. We are ready, definitely ready. Here comes Fans Forum. Ready, set, go.
Ready, set, go. Let's go to Greg. Hey, Lee, whatever happened to Billy Joe Tolliver, the quarterback we had before Stan Humphries? Great show, by the way.
It is a bleeping brilliant show. Billy Joe, cool guy. Played at Texas Tech, bounced around, was with the Chargers. Funniest story. So he was here as a late round draft pick, and he was a wild arm thrower. I used to kind of chuckle. I started to call him Billy Joe Overthrow. He was a competitive guy. He had flaming red hair.
Yeah.
Cool guy. Anyhow, so he was here during the era in which we were really devoid of quarterbacks. And he got the chance to start, but he was undersized. He would have been a great quarterback in Canada because he could run and he was undersized. He had a gun for an arm. He had the personality. Anyhow, he got traded. And I got wind from his agent that he was about to be traded. And I think they traded him to the Houston Oilers. And I'm on the air that night at 6:30. And I say, I've been told Billy Joe Tolliver is about to be traded to the Houston Oilers for a conditional draft pick. He was at a hamburger drive-in drive-through listening. He stopped and he dialed his phone up, and my producer answered it in the studio. because he had the inside hotline number.
Mhm.
And producer says, I can't hear you, Billy Joe. The woman giving you the hamburgers is talking to you. And he said, did I just get traded? And I said, yeah, you did. You went to the Houston Oilers. That's how we found out. It was funny because his agent couldn't find him. But anyhow, good guy. Billy Joe, I think, got into college coaching. I don't know if he went back to Texas Tech, maybe the small college ranks, maybe the high school ranks, but he was personality. He was persona squared. He was a firebrand. Good guy.
Well, I remember when he got drafted, Charger fans were really excited, because he could throw the ball a mile.
He had a gun. I think it was one of his first exhibition games. I want to say he threw for like 323.
Really?
In an exhibition game, played 3 quarters. He's just chucking it all over the field. But, getting in a game against the Washington Redskins, and that's Darrell Green back there picking off your passes and taking it back the other way.
Yeah, that's a
Hall
whole
of Fame, Pro
different
Bowl cornerback. So, good guy. He had his 15 minutes of fame, but fun personality.
Another question. I go back to that time frame of the late 80s, early 90s, before Humphreys came, and there was a blur of quarterbacks. I remember there was Mark Malone, there was Craig Wheelahan. What was the sequence? Do you remember?
Mark Vlasic.
Oh, Vlasic
came
too.
from Purdue. He was the backup to Fouts. I got here. My first year as voice of the Chargers was Dan's last season, and everybody around him had already gone, and he was doing it by himself. And we were 8-1 out of the gate, and we lost our last 6. And he got hurt at the end of the season, and then he announced his retirement. Mark Vlasic was supposed to be the guy in waiting. He was a big 6'5" guy out of Purdue who could chuck it. And he had a beard, so everybody thought, it's the next Dan Fouts. He wasn't Dan Fouts. He was more Jim Everett than he was Dan Fouts. Nice man. And then we went through a series. I mean, we had journeymen like you wouldn't believe. We had a guy that played for the Lions. I think his name was Bob Galliano.
Oh, yeah.
We had Sean Salisbury came here, who I thought was going to do some really good things at USC. He had won a Grey Cup with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in the Canadian football. He came down here, but he just wasn't a real difference maker. We just went through quarterback after quarterback after quarterback. And Spanos wanted him to draft Wheelahan, who played at the University of Pacific in Stockton in Spanos Stadium. And Craig, I did a game. It was the year after the Chargers had left our station, and I had gone to Seattle to do the Seahawks. And Wheelahan was still with the Chargers with Ryan Leaf. And they came to the Kingdome early in the season. And Wheelahan and Leaf threw 6 interceptions in one game. Ooh. And I'm sitting there doing the Seahawks broadcast. And these guys are throwing perfect out patterns to our cornerbacks, to the Seahawk cornerbacks.
Wow.
And they're taking the balls back. And I looked into the coach's booth, and the quarterback coach at that time was a good guy, former head coach at New Mexico, who I got along with, Mike Shepard. I looked at him, and he looked at me, and he shook his head because he was not a Leaf fan. Those dudes threw 6 picks in one game. Seahawks we killed them.
Wow. That was a rough time to be a Charger fan. You brought up Bob Galliano, and I'd forgotten about him, but Jim Harbaugh was also at that time too.
McMahon was here for 15 minutes because he was at the end of his career, but they brought him in, and he was offbeat. He was really different. And he didn't practice. It was weird. We played a preseason game in Chicago, and they traded for him the day before. He met the team at the team hotel. So I talked to him, introduced myself, blah, blah, blah. And he played that next game. Had not practiced with the team.
Unbelievable.
And he completed like his first 5 passes. Now they're all dumping runs and safety valves and all that. But he was so beat up by the time he got there. And he didn't have much of an arm left, too. But, boy, he was uniquely different, too. We marched to the beat of a really different drum.
Didn't he have he had to wear those sunglasses?
Yeah, because he had eye injury as a youngster growing up.
Wow. But he was great with the Bears, man. That was a good time.
Oh, well, that was, thank you, Refrigerator Perry and Mike Singletary, Mike Dixon. That was defense, pal. And Sweetness, Walter Payton.
Right.
But if you go back, I don't know how you would do it. Google San Diego Chargers quarterbacks. Started in 1987, Fouts' last year, and just go and run through the list of names. You won't believe who they were, where they came from, and what happened to the team. Because we had all those 4-12 seasons and 6-10s and all that. And it was with all these journeymen. And then Bobby Beathard came on board, and he stole Humphreys from Washington in a trade. And I knew who Humphreys was, but Washington had hit him on injured reserve the year before and kind of had dropped the hint that he had a blood disorder. And Humphrey said, bull crap. They just hid me on IR. So he came here and he was totally healthy. And he had a couple of really vibrant years till he got the concussion. He never, ever played again. So anyhow, Humphreys obviously then led to the wave of great players that they brought in, which, obviously had to do with Phillip Rivers and then obviously Justin Herbert.
Wow. I mean, so many eras in college or in Charger football.
At the end of the day, pal, you better have a quarterback. If you don't have a quarterback, good luck to you finding a quarterback.
Yeah, Craig Wheelahan. Okay, let's go here to Jeff. He says, I have a feeling the Dodgers might let down come playoff time.
Well, they got to get healthy. They have virtually no pitching staff right now. At one point last week, every one of their starters in the rotation on opening day was gone, most of them injured. And then they released or traded James Paxton. But they're going to get some guys back. Kershaw, it's just going to take time. They need to be patient. He doesn't look like the same guy, but he needs to build strength and pitch count. Yamamoto, I believe by first of next week is going to go out on a rehab start. So maybe he's had no setbacks. He's doing bullpens now. So maybe he comes back and he comes back on a pitch count. We got to see more progress from Buehler. We have not seen that yet. There's a young pitcher, Michael Grove, who just finished up rehab in Oklahoma City. He probably could get called back. So at the end of the day, this is not an excuse. It's a reality. I told John, he almost fell off the chair. The Dodgers have had 33 different pitchers this season from opening day to August 1st. 33 because of all the injuries. And the Dodgers have had 17 pitchers on the disabled list. And then you add into that no Mookie Betts, who's about to come back, and no Max Muncy, who they still don't think is ready to come back. I mean, that's a significant number of cornerstone guys. And then Freddie Freeman left the team last week because his son has a serious viral infection and is still in the hospital. He's a 3-year-old boy. So he's been away from the club. So, the Dodgers we saw here were a fragment of what the Dodgers were effective on opening day. But between now and October 1st, they're going to get some of these arms back, and then we'll see. And the FLAHERTY acquisition is huge to me.
Yeah, well, but he wasn't so sharp at the end of last season when he got dealt FLAHERTY.
Right.
So again, who knows?
Yeah, but 2.59, that's legitimacy.
Well, now, yeah, he's doing really well.
He's
now.
back to what he was with the Cardinals. In his first 3 years of the Cardinals, he was very good.
Oh yeah, I remember those years.
Yeah.
I was surprised he's only 28 years old now. So, but I know as a Padre fan, I'm thinking everyone's all fired up. They just swept the 2-game series with the Dodgers, but you just know, like in 30 days. The tide's going to turn and the Dodgers are going to be dominating again. And I'm worried about who's going to get the last laugh.
No. So you're giving ground already. I mean, at the start here, you were printing World Series tickets. Padres best bullpen in baseball. We'll see if they can buy innings from their starters. These guys are going to continue to hit, but I do agree with you. The chemistry of the Dodgers is going to change sometime in the month of August, and we'll just see if they get everybody back. If they do, then it's a brand new ball game. If they don't, the Padres are in a position right now to plant their flag in first place and have everybody chase them.
Wow. Well, they got 4.5 to go to catch up. Let's go to 4RXLA. The Padres have a real chance to take the division lead this month as the Dodgers continue to slump and Dave Roberts continues to mishandle his pitching staff and lineup. Fire Dave Roberts.
Fire you for XRLA. Come on. It's not Roberts' fault that all these guys are hurt. He can only manage what's given to him on the roster. I do agree with John. It's few and far between this happens. I do agree that the Dodgers will be different probably in 15 days. But the Padres might be in first place in 15 days. Understand this. These next 15 games are against the Rockies, the Marlins, and the Pirates. San Diego's got a chance to grab first place by the throat, and then everybody will be chasing them. But there's still some things that could happen which will kind of rally the Dodgers back. And getting Mookie Betts back, they think by next week, might be by Monday. He's taken full batting practice now with a hand injury. Getting Betts back will be huge. Muncy, I don't think we're going to see for a while, if not at all this season.
Do you think Betts plays shortstop when he comes back?
No, they're going to put the dude in right field. That's what I was told. And
really?
That was a byproduct of the trades. That's why they made the trade for Edman. That's why they trade for Rosario's glove, second and short.
Okay.
See, if you connect the dots, you read my website every day, you'd know this shtick.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I mean, unbelievable when those guys come back.
Nah, don't blame Dave Roberts yet. Go ahead. Next question.
Okay, let's go to Andrew. All caps, hacksaw. Here we go. Rancho Bernardo, react. The Friars just beat the Dodgers in a 2-game series. Are you planning to attend the victory parade? Pick up the bleeping phone and tell me how you are celebrating. Call me on the little brother line.
Well, it's nice to have an RB neighbor who follows our podcast. And what did I say? What did I say? What did I say on Monday? What was the words coming out of my mouth on Monday that were echoing in my ears? Beat LA, beat LA.
Yeah.
So, nice accomplishment. They kicked a cripple while the cripple was down. You got to beat whoever's on the schedule these next 15 games. God, if they went 15-0, pennant race would be over. Now, I don't think go 15-0 because we do have some recent history here about their struggles against Miami and Pittsburgh, and Rockies beat them 3 in a row. But I don't think that's going to happen. This series, the pennant race could be over in the next 15 days if the Padres go 15-0.
Well, will they? I don't know. You know who else is on the schedule coming up? I think in September, the White Sox. So you've got a lot of the dregs that are now Pittsburgh's legit this year. Yeah, wow. I mean, just what an exciting time here. Let's move on. Like more Padre Dodger talk. This is from John. Lost in all the news and talk about AJ's moves is how Mike Shildt has focused the Padres clubhouse on being team first rather than look at the back of my baseball card.
Not bad. Not a bad call. I think success begets success. I think these guys see chemistry. They see results, and that's why they're playing really well. But think about this, and this is kind of rocketed through my skull. The Padres are on the brink of being back in the pennant race, and they've hung. I mean, they played really well, won 9 of their last 12. They're doing this without starters 1, starters 2, and Tatis.
Yeah,
that's pretty impressive. And although I've been critiquing AJ for trading the farm system away again, his acquisitions, whether that's Solano or that's the right fielder, or whether it's the pitchers that he's picked up. I mean, he has made probably 5 to 6 acquisitions. You say, wow, these guys are all contributing. The catcher they got from the Yankees, Higashioka, holy cow, what a season he's had as an insurance policy guy and settling pitchers down on the mound. So, I mean, AJ, for the first time, has been able to cite, scope, and sign utility men who have really made a difference on this roster when they needed them. That is Solano wrapping the ball down the third base line for the game-winning hit against Dodger Blue. So you go through their roster, just punch up their roster, and you can check off probably 5 or 6 names of, quote, fringe acquisitions that have made a big difference.
I think the catching combination of Campusano and Higashioka, and those are 2 last names right there, they're like the second most productive catching duo of in Major League Baseball, if I read that right. So it's fabulous how well everyone's doing. But let's talk about Mike Shildt, because I really like his vibe. And when, granted, he sometimes is not quite as transparent in his press conferences, but you always can tell he's protecting his guys. He's not throwing his guys under the bus. It makes me wonder how different it must have been last year with Bob Melvin. And maybe was Melvin a problem?
I don't know. Was Melvin a problem? I think it was a tolerance level that Preller's people, I was told this, Preller's people told Melvin, you're not going to go into the clubhouse. You're not going to beat these guys up. In essence, the players ran the damn clubhouse, and the players didn't listen to the manager. And part of that might have been Machado, and part of that might have been Soto. Maybe the bigger part of that was Soto in terms of his standoffish. I am in my own world. My own world is a $500 million contract a year from now, and all that. But they've kind of focused. Now, I've been told from players that Shildt delivers a really stern message in that clubhouse, a very different set of things that he says to them when they were all getting their ass thrown out on the bases. We had that whole stretch of pickoffs, and tossed out at third and gunned down at the plate, and why the hell are you doing this? That they have solved that situation for the most part. So, but I think the message from Shildt inside is a lot sterner and carries a lot more clout, because he's telling them what needs to be done. And I think they're paying attention because they see the results because they're winning. Whereas last year, Melvin got no space at all from Preller, and this is how you have to do it, and you can't do this and you can't do that. Well, that doesn't work. Stay out of my clubhouse. I'm the manager.
Well, Shildt knows his place, with AJ. There's no friction going up to the front office. Let's go next here to Derek. And Derek says, you got to be an absolute bastard to own an MLB team in Florida, it appears.
Shocked to me when they put the expansion team, when they put the Marlins in there to begin with, I thought this is going to be a raging success. The Latin American influence in South Florida is phenomenal. How many people live there, have moved there from everywhere, be it Latin America, Central America, South America, those who came from Cuba. And what's their sport? Their sport's baseball. And I thought Florida Marlins baseball, it was then known, was just going to be a gangbuster success. And it was actually. They went to the World Series with Jim Leyland, and then ownership said, price to do this is too steep. And then that's where the word fire sales started. And they've just never, ever recovered from it. And they got a brand new stadium. It's a dome stadium. You know, before you played in the heat and humidity, and the weather was really brutal in South Florida. And over in Tampa, that's a whole different situation. That's a huge, massive retirement community. And they played in a dumpy stadium, Tropicana Field. It used to be called the Sun Dome. It's located right at the edge of a bridge. There's no parking. And I would have thought, because there's so many transplants living on the west coast of Florida, I don't think it's called the Gold Coast, but so many transplants.
Yeah, it is. I think it is the Gold Coast.
Sun Coast.
Suncoast.
Suncoast. I didn't cut geography class. So many transplants from the Northeast, I thought this would be tremendous. But then it dawned on me the demographics aren't right. That the older generation does not want to get into rush hour traffic, have to fight their way over the bridge from St. Pete's, or fight all that traffic in Tampa. And traffic in Tampa is god-awful. As bad as San Diego or L.A. And there's no place to park near Tropicana Field, the Sundome. So that was a real big issue there. And then the team wasn't good early. Then the team got really good and still not appreciated. Their TV ratings are through the roof. Everybody stays home. Senior citizens, retirees, stay home and watch Rays baseball on TV, but they don't go to the ballpark. You know, outside of the Oakland A's, Tampa's probably one of the lowest drawing teams in all of Major League Baseball. And now they're going to get a new stadium. It's going to be on the other side of the bridge in St. Petersburg, but St. Petersburg has a much bigger tradition in baseball, because that's where the Cardinals and Yankees were in spring training, and they have a much better following. So I'm shocked. I'm shocked at South Florida how bad it is. I'm really stunned at Miami, because I would have thought with the Latin American population base, which is huge, and it's their game, but they've not put their arms around it, because they haven't been very good since Jim Leyland's early years when they won.
Well, you know, it's not just the Latin American community in Florida or the seniors that retire, but there's just a general exodus in America from the north to the south. And in fact, in many ways, you know, from California to Texas and California to Florida. So there's a lot of movement. You would expect those teams to perform better. You know, Miami got a new stadium and they didn't start drawing better, you know, so I'm afraid that if they do this in Tampa, St. Pete, it's going to end up being a dud anyways. But the best news, I think, of all for when it comes to Florida baseball is at least the Miami Marlins got rid of that structure statue thing in the outfield.
The architectural thing.
Yeah, what the hell was that?
That was something to salute the Latin American influence in South Florida. It was weird because it was located in left center field. It was just really weird.
Yeah, it was weird. I just didn't get it.
But, you know, the franchises, Tampa's franchise owners were terrible to begin with. Now they have a new owner who's done a very good job, except for what happened at the trading deadline. And Miami's ownership's just been garbage for a long period of time. Ever since the first owner elected to opt out, this franchise has not accomplished very much. And if you don't have good ownership, you don't have good product, you don't have good product, I'm not coming. And it's kind of sad. Move on. Next question.
Moving on. Let's go to David. Talk Olympics here. Simone Biles is the GOAT. Her story will make a great motion picture someday.
Gold medal for the person. She's 27 years of age. She's the oldest gymnast to win a gold. She won another gold today. The oldest gymnast to win a gold since 1952. She's phenomenal as an athlete. And you watch her now, and I mean, she's matured and grown. Of course, she's married. She married a Philadelphia Eagles player. She is so different, so intellectual, so vibrant, and has experienced so much in life. And like I said, she deserves a gold medal for becoming the persona, the face, and the voice. I need mental health. It's a hell of a job.
Well, think about how she took time off, and I know that was a big thing when that went down. But she just proved that if you just take time off, recharge the batteries, kind of get reoriented.
With the right people helping you.
With the right people, and you can come back and be as good or even better than you used to be.
Yeah, I concur with you wholeheartedly. I mean, it's a phenomenal human interest story. Now, David, great comment. And David agrees with me. He'll sign the memo. She deserves a gold medal for what she's doing on behalf of mental health.
I agree.
We move on.
Well, just another quick one from David. He goes, hey, I got my new doors at DIXIELINE. Well, my contractor did, but I got to choose what I wanted.
Very good.
So see how all this works.
We told you how it works. Next question.
Okay, let's go to Chris. I've become so tired of hearing Dodger fans talking about how when Kershaw is back, the rotation will be solid. Amazing pitcher, but he's done. Without A.J. Preller handing them River Ryan for all the world of Matt Beattie, their season might be over. Sad to watch Kershaw dotting the radar gun with 88-mile-per-hour heaters.
Well, let's be respectful of what he's accomplished. He's probably going to the Hall of Fame. You know, I don't recall what his career record is now, but it was staggering. It was like 188 and 82 over the course of his career. And a lot of innings, a lot of strikeouts, and you wake up and you're hurt. And he's been hurt now with multiple things last couple of years. But let's not disrespect him. He's a hell of a guy. What he's done for charity in L.A., what he does back in Dallas-Fort Worth, he's a great family man. So I hate to see him struggle, and maybe this will indeed be his last year. He jokes, they ask him how he's feeling. He said, well, I'm okay, but I have old guy's arm. Which is I'm 38 and I've had all these surgeries and all that. So, but respect the player and the person because he's meant a hell of a lot to baseball as a representative of the game.
Yeah, well, as a Giants and Padres fan, I guess I've been jealous, because he's just been so good for those teams. But don't you like his windup? And it's a very unique windup. You don't really see many players putting their hands way up above their head like that.
And then he rocks on his delivery.
Yeah,
he's been a great pitcher for a long time, but there are only so many bullets in the gun.
Only so many bullets. Hey, let's go to our O Canada line. Talk football. This is from Yin. Hey, how is Nathan Rourke doing so far in Atlanta?
Well, Nathan Rourke was in the Giants camp and just got released. Now, he's moved around. Nathan Rourke, and I know Nathan Rourke, he went to my alma mater, Ohio University, set all the passing records, went to Canada. He's a Canadian-born kid out of Toronto. Nathan went to the BC Lions and played 1 year, and his numbers were phenomenal. He was ideally made. And he came south, and he signed, I think the first free agent contract he signed was with Jacksonville. And then he was in New England. Then he was with the Giants. I don't know if he's in Atlanta right now or had been released prior by Atlanta before he went to there. He just got released again. I'm not going to say that he's in the wrong place, but he's the third or fourth quarterback on virtually everybody's roster, and they never get the chance to play. They do make a little bit of money when they're on the developmental squad, but it's not great. So you have to make the decision if you're Nathan Rourke. I can go back to Canada, my home country, and I could be a star. Now, he'd only make $300,000 or $400,000 because there's a cap in Canada and they pay differently. But he could go home and just be a legend. Here, he's on the waiver wire twice or three times a year. So he has to make a tough decision. But good kid. He's a great college quarterback at Ohio U, a Bobcat. And what he did in 1 year with the BC Lions is phenomenal. So, sometime he'll get tired of being moved and never really getting a chance to play and grow, unless it's just in it to be the third quarterback on somebody's developmental squad and get $240,000 a year, unless you get elevated to the big roster. But fine kid. His brother was a fine kid. His brother followed him at Ohio U and did really well and just transferred because of the NIL, went to Indiana University as a grad student for his final year. But good kid. That's a long story about my alma mater. But
well, you were talking about there was another Rourke kid. Was it the brother or that was at Ohio?
Yeah, they're both back-to-back. They're there at the same time.
Oh, right on.
And Nathan graduated in the backup. His brother replaced him for a year and a half.
So there really is a big difference between the NFL and the CFL.
Oh, yeah, layers.
So which do you think is a lower level of football, the Canadian or the European?
No, Canadian league. The NFL has the elite.
Yeah, well, of course the NFL is at the top, but the Canadian or the European league?
Well, there is no European league anymore.
Oh, okay.
It used to be NFL Europe.
Right.
Yeah, but that was a notch below the CFL. CFL is a good place. They've got athletes. They're self-made athletes. They don't have marquee names any longer. Once upon a time, they did. They had Warren Moon. They had Flutie. They had Joe Theismann. Those guys were there for a couple of short periods of time, earned some money, made reps, proved they could play, came to the States and did very, very well. But their economics are different, and it's just really hard to pay marquee dollars to lure guys across the border. Plus, they have the import rule. I think you can only have 18 Americans on your team out of a roster of maybe 33 38 maybe now. They have a smaller roster. It's a different game, though. It's a speed game. It's an open field game. It's not as physical. It's still football. They do hit and they do tackle, but it's not what the National Football League is. But again, the NFL's fame and the NFL's fortune, and guys want to be in the NFL. And I have no problem with my guy Nathan Rourke wanting to try his hand in Jacksonville with the Jaguars, but after 4 years, having been cut 6-7 times and been on all these different developmental rosters, you just never get a chance to play. What do you want to do with the rest of your life? Whereas there is an alternative. You could go back to Canada and really be a superstar.
Yeah. Remember Rocket Ishmael?
Yes.
Okay. And so remember he had a brother who I think they called him the Missile. Was it Quadre?
Yes.
But didn't one of them play in the CFL?
Yeah, Rocket went to the Toronto Argonauts.
That's what it was.
Yeah, and then I think he came back and played, but he had injury problems. Quadre played for a couple good years. He was explosive. He had injury problems too.
I like how they called their mom the launching pad.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Okay. Hey, let's move on down the list here. Let's go to Tim. Lee, John, the Padres are playing good baseball, but this fan base needs a reality check. Lots of questions about Darvish, Musgrove, Tatis's return. The wild card race is tight, and there's a lot of baseball to be played. Team needs to take 2 or 3 from Colorado this weekend minimum. In other words, let's not book the downtown parade just yet.
There are a lot of people running around the street cheering, but in defense, Tim, let's be realistic. These dudes are now in the fight for first place, and they've done it without Darvish, without Musgrove, and without El Nino. That's pretty impressive. And like I say, you just go pull up. When we're done with this podcast, you just pull up and check off how many role players have stepped in here that Preller has brought in here that have really made a difference and contributed. And it's pretty impressive. But you're correct. Everybody's got 55 games to play, and we'll see how it sorts itself out. But, pal, they got 15 games against the dregs in baseball. Geez, what would this podcast be like if they went 15-0? Wow.
Yeah, but see, they've been like this 500 team, and they tease you, and they beat the good teams, and they lose 3 out of 4 to the Rockies. And it drove us mad. And now they're riding another hot streak. I'm just hoping they can continue it.
Can you just please tell me, are you printing World Series tickets yet? Because every other time you open your mouth, you say something different.
Well, because this Padre team is different every week, it seems.
Thanks for the input, Tim. Go ahead.
Let's go to Justin, talk Chargers here. Hacksaw, I asked a few months ago if the Chargers made a mistake not drafting a quarterback. You responded, quote, the success of the Chargers will not rest on a backup quarterback. Now we're stuck with your favorite QB, Stick, shaking my head.
Well, we hope that Justin Herbert's arch injury, plantar fasciitis, is not going to be serious, that there's nothing torn down there. If it's torn, that's a real significant injury. If it's just strained, you can solve that because they've got themselves another good 5 weeks of training camp. But they don't have quarterback problems. Nobody's got great backup quarterbacks. Salary cap does not allow you to have marquee backup quarterbacks. You're going to spend your money on running backs and wide receivers, and they got salary cap issues. I mean, they're paying volumes of money to a whole bunch of players, making big time dough. And only time will tell whether or not they've got the running backs to replace Austin Eckler, who's making jack, and whether or not they can replace Keenan Allen, Mike Williams with what they've got. And what they're paying defensive, they're paying a lot of money to Derwin James, Bosa, Khalil Mack. So this might be the last year they're going to be able to keep that core of marquee guys together on the roster. But let's just hope that Herbert's injury is not bad. And if Easton Stick has to be the guy, he's got to prove himself, because he played last year when Herbert finally went down after all the injuries, and he could move him up and downfield. He just could not get him into the end zone. But again, that was a quarterback-driven offense. This is going to be a running game defense type of franchise where they ask the quarterback to make some plays but not carry the whole thing. I think it'll be a different team.
Are LA fans warming up to the Chargers?
They seem to think so. Proof will be in the pudding. When they start playing all these teams in regular season, is the stadium overwhelmed by Raider fan, guys wearing Green Bay colors, Pittsburgh black and gold?
Yeah.
Then we'll find out. The Chargers have a bunch of answers. They have Harbaugh. They had Herbert. But there's a bunch of answers they must get. Rams are a proven commodity. What McVay has done and what many thought was going to be rebuild transition, they've jumped ahead of the power curve on that. And their last 2 drafts have been really good, and all those guys are playing. And as long as they keep Matthew Stafford standing upright, and so far they've done a good job with this new group, They're going to be good. They're going to be good in the NFC. And jury is still a little bit out how good the Chargers can be in the AFC.
NFL's right around the corner, Lee.
Oh, well, first preseason game is tonight.
Hall of Fame game.
Hall of Fame game. Chicago, Houston. Not that anybody of name is going to play. But, then we start next week, and I'll start the 3 preseason games. And we roll towards Labor Day weekend and the start of the season, second week, September.
All right, let's go to social media.
Do it.
Okay, do it. All right, let's go here. And this is from Frank Dad and talking about Padres. Last week, you said they were done, Hack. Now you're saying in 2 years, the World Series. I'm glad you're not the weatherman.
I'd be better than some of the weathermen that I've worked with on TV here. Franchise was staggering. I think you'd agree with me. During some of the spurts, you'd say, damn, same old, underachieving. Now they're playing well. Now they beat up the Dodgers. Now they've almost caught the Dodgers. So they're back in it. If they can get Tatis back, we still don't know when. And Musgrove is throwing his first rehab game Sunday in Rancho Lake Elsinore. Mm-hmm. If he's going to need 2 to 3 rehab starts. If he can do that without any problem, then they bring him back. Maybe they bring him back as just a long reliever, or maybe a short starter and a bullpen day. But the makeup of the roster right now is a lot better than the makeup was 10 days ago, which is a lot better than it was when Darvish and Tatis and Musgrove all disappeared. So I'm not the flag blowing in the wind that changes his opinion. I'm just reacting to what I see in certain chunks of time.
So let's pretend that all the injured players that are expected to come back this year come back and perform at the level that we expect them to be for both the Dodgers and the Padres. So we're not counting Shohei Ohtani as a pitcher. We're not talking about guys that are gone for the year like Dustin May. Do you think that the Padres can go head-to-head with the Dodgers when everyone's at full strength?
If everybody's at full strength, the Dodgers are still probably the first-place team. But because the Padres now have the best bullpen in baseball, and if you do get Darvish and Musgrove back for whatever value they have, then the Dodgers are Dodgers are not running away with the pennant race. The Padres are a lot closer to the Dodgers if everybody is back healthy. I still think the Dodgers are superb. Padres would be knocking at the door right behind them.
And speaking of right behind him, this wild card race is loaded. I mean, there's like 8 or 9 teams going for 3 spots.
We've got 60 days to go.
Mm-hmm.
And, Arizona, nobody's talked about the D-backs. They're only about a half game or a game back of the Padres. And see, everybody has games in hand on the Padres because Padres have played so many games on the schedule. That's going to be an issue. In Arizona, based on getting Josh Bell, and Arizona, based on getting 2 more relief pitchers to solve what was a big hole, suddenly Arizona's a very different team going forward. And then I'm not sure where Atlanta is. Atlanta's got so many injuries, and they play well in stretches. They don't play well in stretches. So, there's some other dogs in the other divisions that have probably put their hat in this wild card race before this thing is over.
Yeah, this is a great time.
Oh, it's pretty
This
good.
is fantastic. Okay, let's got another Padre comment here. This is from Ray. He says, Padres are playing good ball. This is fun. Hello, Lee from Republic, Missouri. Profar is having an awakening. Cronenworth, a wonderful surprise. Machado is heating up. Merrill is scary.
Pretty good collection. And, nobody would have seen this from the $1 million man, Profar, who was on waivers up until the end. And finally, the Padres re-signed him at a lower price. Nobody could have ever seen that. Jake's bounced back. Nobody expected Merrill. Everybody expected Merrill to be in El Paso all year. All of a sudden, Window gets a chance to learn to play center field. Kids never look back. I mean, he's wired differently. This stage is not too big for him. And some of the home runs he's hit have been monster shots with monster importance to helping him get victory. So, like I say, it's just a lot of pleasant stuff going on with Friar Baseball. Now bolstered by what AJ just spent to rent all these guys for this push to the pennant.
Yeah, and Merrill's a homegrown guy, which we don't have very many of, which is nice. But, give it up here to Ray. So many of your listeners throughout the years, they've moved on from San Diego, but they're all reconnecting with you here on the podcast, like this guy here from Missouri.
Yeah, it's amazing how many people have been deported. But it's interesting though. Social media allows people to follow you or find you. I got guys I went to school with, graduate school back in the day, said, "You're out on San Diego. I just found you. Where you been?" And careers take you all over the planet. So it's kind of funny. And so I got longtime friends that don't agree with the crap that I'm saying on the air, but they're following the crap that I'm saying on the air, and they do like you.
Okay. Thanks. Thank goodness for that. Hey, let's talk umpires here. This is from David. Human umps are as much of a part of the game as the players themselves. Sometimes you get the call, sometimes they get the call. Also, multiple stoppages to play for reviews is counter to all of their recent efforts to speed up the game. No thanks.
Well, I guess I'll argue with you. The whole strike zone thing is so out of control, so erratic, so inconsistent. This moving home plate thing, you never know what you're going to get from umpire to umpire. You never know what you get from crew to crew. You got to fix it somehow. Human element is part of the game, I agree. Pitcher leaves one out in the middle of the plate, it winds up second deck in left center field. That's the human element of the game. Machado doesn't pick up a ground ball or throws one over the first baseman's head, human element. Umpires make mistakes, make calls. But the inconsistency and inadequacy to define what home plate is in balls and strikes, it's glaring. It's terrible. And even though we got rid of Angel Hernandez, who is a disgrace as an umpire, we haven't solved the problem at all. So I'm not in favor of robo-ump. My AAA players don't like it. But if we can use computers for instant replay challenges only on balls and strikes, and you only get 3 or maybe you only get 5 instant replay challenges, get the call right at the most important part of the time. You're not going to use a challenge in the second inning of a game. You're using it in the 8th when the bases are loaded and you think the guy got ball 4 instead of strike 3. So it'll be there, but I don't think the interruptions are going to be extended.
I think some people still have a vision in their head of that Norman Rockwell painting of an umpire. Have you ever seen that one? And so people kind of naturally think about that as part of the history of the game. But darn it, they got to get it right. Like you said, these balls and strikes are ridiculous. But let's take a tangent here. I was just thinking in my head of memorable umpire moments in Major League Baseball history. And the one that always makes me laugh is when Jim Niekro, not Phil Niekro, but when he
Joe
got
Niekro.
Joe Niekro, that's right. I knew Jim Niekro didn't sound right. Joe Niekro got busted and he had that nail file in his back pocket and that one umpire kind of looked over his shoulder. I mean, do you remember any kind of fun ump moments like that?
Not specifically, but I remember unbelievable personalities. I interviewed Emmett Ashford, who was the first African-American umpire. He was really dynamic guy, personality. Interviewed Ron Luciano, big, burly. He was phenomenal. Now, I grew up in a different era. I grew up when the umpires wore the big chest protectors behind the plate and didn't say anything except strike, ball. So there have been some really good umpires, real personality. Cowboy Joe West was just off the charts. I mean, it was so much fun to talk to him. I don't know if he equated to being a great manager, but he was a great personality. So, but I'm like you, get the damn call right. I sit there, I watch Padre baseball nonstop, and favorite thing, might not even be watching a game. I might be doing something on my laptop, and all I hear is Mark Grant say, "Thank you."
Yeah.
Which meant it was a bad call. They got a strike.
Yeah. It's a strike. I'm not sure there was.
Yeah.
That was or Solo always says. The other umpire moment I remember was the George Brett Pine Tar game.
Oh, yeah.
And the umpires, they're having their little conference there. But it's interesting. And then there was the other umpire what was his last name? Doyle, that made the bad call on the perfect game for the kid from the Detroit Tigers. Jim Joyce, not Doyle, Joyce. And so, there's been a number of times that umpires, you want them to be invisible, but they become visible.
Well, I want them to become consistent. And if they got a little zing and persona, that's okay. But this home plate thing, it's like a freaking epidemic.
Yeah.
I think it really hurts the game. And there's no consistency at all. Back in the day, 10 years ago, well, that's a National League strike zone, or this is an American League strike zone. Well, now they're all amalgamated. They all work together, and there are no 2 different sets of umpires. There shouldn't be 2 different strike zones. We have a damn home plate that keeps moving. In defense of the guy in blue behind home plate, you watch how wicked the stuff is these guys throw, and the bite and the movement of the ball.
Yeah.
And you add into that with the players ducking. So the strike zone gets a little tougher to call vis-a-vis Aaron Judge size. And the strike zone gets hard because Luis Campusano's moving all over the place trying to frame things and blocking your view. It's much harder to umpire because the pitcher is so dynamic right now. But you got to find a solution.
It's got to be hard. I mean, imagine, these umpires are not spring chickens either. They're gray haired guys like you and me, and they're back there dealing with this, and they're getting foul tips that are hitting them on the head or on the arm or the leg. I mean, that's brutal.
And nobody likes them either.
Yeah.
So I'm going to plagiarize what you said. Get it right.
Get it right. Yeah, that's all we want.
Okay, a couple more here before we wrap this up.
All right, let's talk here. This is a little angel talk from the Rap Album Depot. He says, Tatis and Trout are the most overrated ball players I have ever seen. The ghost of Babe Ruth does more for clubhouse unity in San Diego and Anaheim than these two fellas.
Well, they've been hurt. I mean, El Nino has had 3 major injuries now over the course of his career, plus the drug suspension. Trout has probably had 4 significant injuries from playing hard. So I never hold it against players if they get hurt playing the game the way the game should be played. But it's too bad because Trout, I mean, what you've seen statistically from him, that might have been a Hall of Fame player who's just been dry docked by so many different injuries. And Tatis has had bad luck and complicated it by making bad decisions. It'd be nice to see if El Nino could have 4 straight years staying totally healthy, if he could come back to be what he was prior to the wrist injury, prior to the bad decision in the motorcycle, prior to the bad decision with the PED. Because he hit 42 home runs before he got hurt. Has never quite come back to that. And Trout just can't stay on the field. And he's a really good player and a really good person.
Trout's a mystery to me why he's not playing and with the injuries and why in the heck he wants to stay there in Anaheim. But, Tatis, it seems to me that he has matured this year particularly. Before he got hurt, you could see that in his approach of the plate and in a lot of his interviews. And now we still see him in the dugout, and he's still there with his guys. He's still having fun as a young man, but he's not quite the kid that's, kind of acting immature in the dugout.
Well, when they met with him post PED suspension, they just flat out told him, you will get a second chance. They did not tell him it would be his last chance, but they inferred to him there will be no more mistakes. And you're going to rehab in San Diego. You're not going to rehab in the Dominican. And you're not going to go home and live there in the offseason because there's a lot of junk that he was involved in off the field. And he's taken it to heart. And I think one of the lasting things is that Peter Seidler's imprint probably touched Fernando Tatis. Only time will tell whether he can come back and actually be what he was, or was he what he was because he was doing stuff to make him a better ball player. That story is still kind of out there, still to be solved.
Well, my hunch is that he was a natural talent, and I'm willing to give him a little bit of slack on that one, on the PED thing. It was a stupid ass thing to do. But if he was just doing it to hopefully recover quicker, I'm going to give him a little slack. Now, granted, I'm biased. I'm a Padre fan, and I want him to perform. But when he comes back, hopefully September, man, that Padre outfield is going to be special.
Yeah, I'll be intrigued to see if he could string together 3 years of health, if he could be what he was prior. He's a good ball player. No argument there. Could he be a great ball player? Well, great ball players win Gold Gloves and hit 280 and hit 42 home runs. They don't hit 24 home runs, hit 250. Well, and that's kind of what he's debilitated into. But again,
Tatis has a platinum glove, not just a gold glove. Now, he's legit. He's going to be fine. Just got to come back from this injury.
Cheerleader.
I am.
And wear a skirt when we do the podcast on Monday.
Okay.
Hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed our extended podcast on a Thursday going towards a great sports weekend. Hope you like the topics on the table. Great to have you part of what we created, this Fans Forum. Want you to tell all your friends, subscribe so you get all the alerts. Go to my website, join Hacksaw's Insiders Group. Hey, I know you're on social media, dude. I read your social media stuff. I want you to follow me at Hacksaw 1090. Our podcast brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. Build it, fix it. You will enjoy it in 2024. John, enjoy this 15-game Padre winning streak. Have yourself a great sports weekend. We'll see you come Monday.
Okay, you're predicting 15 in a row? I hope you're right.
You have yourself a great sports weekend. Thanks for being with us here on Hacksaw's Headlines.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast apps. For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.